So it's a pyramid, right? And what you're saying is that the foundation of the pyramid is trust. So it's the most important function to have in high performing teams.
I
So
agree with that.
yeah, right. So it's all based on
Yep.
trust, and it's challenging. I mean, you see this in the workplace. Everyone does, when there's a breach of trust, everything, it's a domino effect. It's
Yes.
all related back to that. And so even the psychological safety stuff is so important. So Google, and maybe she talked about this already, but Google did this great piece of work called Project Aristotle, which I think has been talked about to death. But they looked internally at their teams to identify what high performing teams did that their other teams didn't, and psychological safety was right up there. It can be actually quite hard to build if you are coming from an environment that is a bit toxic, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to really build that back up, and it requires trust, and it
Yeah.
requires risk, and
Yeah.
it requires a perspective that it's okay to take risk and we want to fail quickly, and come back from that. And that's how we innovate. And that can be really hard for leaders who, particularly if you've got high performing, high achiever leaders who always want to be successful, those leaders may struggle to create psychological safety. Second one is conflict, right? So this is welcoming conversation and welcoming a bit of conflict into your team.
This is unbelievable. This is coming back to this psychologically safe environment
Yes.
where you're able to not only talk about something that's controversial, but even if it's a stupid idea and when people laugh at you, you will never want to talk about creative stuff again. How can you have a creative environment if people are frowned upon if they say it's something that's stupid? How can you ever invent anything? This team is doomed from a creative point of view if
Yeah.
everybody has to be so goddamn polished and perfect before it's actually thrown around.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
you know what I mean? It's so interesting.
Yeah. And look, this is once you've got that really amazing trust, you can have great conversations, right? Because you know that it's a safe environment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you know that you can put
You're
your
not
hand
going to
up.
lose your job
Totally.
if you said something controversial, or if you disagreed strongly with someone, or if you made the CEO's idea look not great or something. It has to come from a trust. You're absolutely right. Otherwise, if you just say it to people, it means nothing. It has to be demonstrated over and over again that there's a trust.
Yes.
And therefore, those kind of controversial and conflicting, if you like, conversations, they will be okay. No one's going to be apprehended and lose their job because of them.
Completely. Yeah. And, it's so important to have those conversations, so that you can commit to what you're going to do, which is the next level of the pyramid, right?
Which is?
So commitment.
Okay.
Yep.
Give me 1 second.
So we're
talking about trust at the bottom,
Yep.
conflict in the middle, and then commit. Is there anything you still want to talk about conflict, just to make sure we hear it from you?
Yes. So I think with conflict, you have to be able to have those challenging conversations, and then you need to be able to commit to them. Now, of course, you can't commit to something unless everyone's, or
commit to them, to the outcomes from the conversations.
correct.
You mean?
Yeah. So commit to the plan or the way forward or what we're going to
comes
do
from
next.
that environment where people are comfortable to be controversial, comfortable to disagree, etc.
Yes.
So there's an outcome that decided through this environment, and you're saying one thing is to encourage people to have challenging conversations, but how about the outcome? Is it going to really happen, or are you going to go back, you and a couple of people have a conversation, decide and alone decide what's going to happen? Yeah, that's brilliant. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, and look, the commitment and the accountability are the two kind of next stages of the pyramid, and I think those two are really important, because if you don't have that conflict conversation, then what happens is people say, yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm going to commit to that. Then they walk out of the room and they're chatting to somebody, saying, I don't know what they were talking about. That's not going to work for XYZ reason. So it's so important that you get that commitment, and you can only have that if you have that solid conversation and you encourage that conflict, and you can only have that solid conversation if you have trust. So, this is why I think Patrick Lencioni's high-performing teams model is really interesting and really relevant as well for us as P&C or HR professionals.